It's the RJ Ochoa Show on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. What's going on in Jerry's world? What's the latest from Cowboy Camp? Find out right here, Friday mornings at 7:30 and 9:30 with the manager and editor-in-chief of Blogging the Boys, RJ Ochoa. Here's Robin Rudy.
It's R&R here on San Antonio Sports Star, and Fridays mean but one thing. It's the weekend. Oh, and RJ Ochoa joins us for his regular stop-off. I need to look at you, RJ. What jersey do we have on today? Got our championship T-shirt on. I want to make sure you're appropriately attired.
Is that the trash can one or the most recent one?
Congratulations, Rudy. You're the most creative person
in the
world.
Asking.
Nobody's ever made that joke. Hilarious.
I'm just asking if it's a fair question.
Are you a White Sox fan, Rudy? Or are all your teams cursed?
I'm a Rangers fan.
That's interesting. You know?
This year. Last year I was Stros.
You don't seem nearly as excited as I thought you would be today.
I'm overjoyed.
Okay.
I'm a 10 out of 10 right now. I mean, with the potential. Actually, I can't say the potential. One of my pet peeves, if I'm honest with you both, is when someone says, "I'm going to give it 110%." You literally can't. That's impossible.
Oh
you
yes,
actually
you can.
literally you can't do it. You can't give more than the maximum.
I feel like
100%.
we've had this discussion this week regarding the percentages that you can actually give.
Yeah, you said something.
And I think that
right?
Rudy is in the wrong, that you can't go beyond. And I give at least 60 on a good day.
Anyway,
we just had McCarthy stop by, and I'll tell you, he was surprisingly upbeat after the beating that he took yesterday. When we talked to you last Friday, you and Rudy had the perspective of it's going to be a tough one. It is only week 5. And, beating San Francisco is not going to be easy on the best of times. And if we lose, it is early. But the beating was such that, the fallout has been awful. What's your attitude about the Cowboys today before we start diving into the reasons and expectations?
I mean, the sun has risen. Granted, it's
tomorrow something weird's going to happen.
That's true. But at least for now, I don't know that it's post-apocalyptic, but it's definitely dystopian. I feel like Katniss Everdeen walking around like we're in Hunger Games times or something like that. But it is like I thought Charles Robinson of Yahoo put it really well in his column after the game. You can't call it a regular season game or a normal regular season game and then call it a normal regular season loss. I'm sorry. We have to face facts. You made it a big deal. You got your ass kicked. You thought that you were the same as them. You're not. You thought that you could change things in terms of the perception, and not even the perception, just the objective fact of it all. You did not. They are your daddy. They own you. Like there is no doubt about it. And for me, the hardest thing to reckon with on Sunday night and even in through Tuesday was this is a good football team in the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes.
And that causes a lot of eye rolls right now.
No, it is. You're right. But it's not. You're not wrong though.
No, and so they're still top 9, top 10 team. They're still going to win double-digit games. They're still going to be a playoff team. But the demoralizing thing is what is this all for? Like,
the realization.
If you're going to run into these cats again, you're either going to run into them and get embarrassed, or you're going to have to cross your fingers and hope that somebody else does your dirty work for you. And that's a really kind of lame spot to be in. And it was just really unfortunate to see that the Cowboys couldn't even take their medicine with a little bit of grace, given that they asked for this specifically and they failed.
Now, you shared on your IG story, and you can follow him on IG. He's a great follow at RJ Ochoa. Micah Parsons talking about the George Kittle situation, and you pretty much said make it stop. Now, you're a huge Micah guy, but are you over it? Because he also gives us content, RJ, so we got to play this carefully.
It's always interesting to hear you of all people bring up Micah and IG, Rudy, given that you threw the line out and you hooked him back in training camp. So what I shared was a post from Kay Adams' show, and
right.
it was Debo.
It was Debo, right?
Yeah,
it was Debo.
It was Debo kind of clapping back. And look, I am all for good sports rivalry. It harkens back, I hate to be the older guy, whatever, but, when I was growing up, when, certainly y'all can identify, it was cool to have sports rivalries, whatever. This is not a rivalry. This is a one-way relationship.
Right now it is, yes.
You cannot come out one day later. And I don't even care about the shirt stuff like that. And you know what? George Kittle has every right to wear whatever shirt he wants. History is written by the winners. And George Kittle has the pen, the quill, the whatever you want to call it in his hand. And so to come out and be like, oh, it's personal now. Shut up, dude. Like you were telling us all along how this was a big deal. And then to be like, you watch out. Next time you're only going to lose 42-20. Like, what's going to happen next time? Like, it's the most preposterous thing in the world to act like you're on their level. You're not, and maybe that pisses you off, but you had fate in your hands on Sunday night and you threw it away.
He is RJ Ochoa of the Blogging the Boys here with us for his Friday stop by. We keep hearing McCarthy talk about this complimentary football, and my God, we heard it a lot today, and you'll continue to hear it. And you're starting to hear it from players as well. What do you make of the actions of this offense that tell us in every possible way that the Dak's responsibilities at the very least have altered from what they have been under Kellen Moore, to the attitude from McCarthy, like, hey man, we want to control the ball, but we want to score a bunch of points too. Right. I mean, describe to me your attitude about this offense and his play calling in specifics.
I don't think it's fair to overreact. As pissed off as we are, prior to, this time last week, they had more red zone opportunities than anybody in the NFL. Granted, they, weren't doing a great job of cashing out, but still, that's not for nothing. And so right now, everyone wants to say the scheme is terrible, and I'm not here to support what Mike McCarthy is doing right now. I think he's in some earned hot water. But it's hard to argue against the idea that the offense has regressed or that their disposition is not working. And I'm a fan of the death by 1,000 paper cuts kind of approach, but you got to be able to adapt at a certain point. And that's what makes elite teams like San Francisco who they are. Your game plan isn't working. You have to be, I think we got to see Mike McCarthy loosen the strings a little bit. At a certain point, you got to be willing to challenge downfield. And that doesn't have to be who you are all the time. But you have to be willing to expose, you have to be willing to open that part of your playbook and dust it off and use it, because right now you're not. And you're leaving everything down in front, and there's a lot of logic and reason to that. But if you're up against a team that's well prepared for it, it's the definition of insanity. It's running your head into a brick wall, and it's going to yield no positive results.
I'm glad you brought that up as far as like, at some point you got to loosen the reins, because, RJ, and I want to get your take on this because you see things from a different lens, obviously. I asked Mike, like, I feel like no matter what you, Jerry, and Steven tell us, I feel like y'all's actions show us that the confidence in Dak Prescott isn't all the way there. And he didn't take too kindly to that. He told me he didn't agree with it at all. But when we talk about cutting down on turnover-worthy plays, Jerry talks about taking away his progressions and getting it out quicker, shortening the language. Was I wrong in asking that? Because I feel like a part of it, his actions, and then like you were down 28-10 before Dak turned the ball over, but you keep bringing up the turnovers. So to me, I feel like you could tell me one thing, but your actions show me that y'all aren't all the way confident in Dak. Was I wrong in that assessment?
So I haven't read this yet, to be frank. I have it bookmarked. Stephen Ruiz does a great job kind of taking deep dives on things at the Ringer. And the general kind of 101 on what he wrote that went out yesterday was that Mike McCarthy may have created a new problem while trying to fix an old one in Dak Prescott's interceptions. And, the interceptions were such a huge story, obviously, over the offseason. You both know it was all that he wanted to talk about. And there was, the argument always was that will regress to the mean. Like this will not continue.
Right.
So I'm not going to sit here and say that Mike McCarthy was flawed for trying to correct that problem. It was 15 interceptions. There is some problem there to work on, but it feels like the primary goal right now is don't throw an interception. It isn't score a touchdown. It's don't throw an interception. And so you're kind of, you're purposefully putting up glass walls and trying to throw stones through them, so to speak. And you've got to be a little bit more risk taking. And again, you don't have to have the same game plan against every single team, but against the best offense in the NFL, you're going to go shot for shot. You're going out, for somebody's 21st birthday. All right. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be shots that you have to take. And so it's concerning that they thought they could just go in and overrun the Niners with their game plan, given that all of recent history suggests that that's impossible.
Tony Pollard came into the game last week, averaging nearly 80 yards a game. Now, last week, 8 for 29. Now, certainly they're behind the chains and the scoreboard for most of the game, so they did have to throw the ball. But the attention to the run game certainly probably needs to be a bit refocused. Are you still comfortable with Pollard as the guy?
I mean, they're paying him $11 million. So,
I know. And 80 yards a game is nothing to sneeze at, but it seems like there's this reticence. If it's 3rd and 5, we'd rather throw it.
Yeah, I mean, and where I'm a little bit more patient than I think some people is, I'm willing to still kind of see things. Now, it's, nobody wants to ever hear it's going to take time, but they've played 5 games and 4 of them have been blowouts, right? Like they've been on the positive side of that spectrum 3 times. But to your point, Rob, I mean, everything they wanted to do went out the window very quickly.
Right.
You could argue after San Francisco's first possession. And so we have really not seen them play kind of a balanced game. And that's a weird thing to moan and groan about.
It is, but truly a weird thing.
Well,
I mean, that's just the last bastion of, we haven't really had a chance to work on it because we either are getting our ass kicked or we're kicking somebody's ass, one or the other.
It's the truth, though. I mean, so like you do have to kind of live, in one part of the playbook when that's the case. And so, and for what it's worth, you might end up in a game like this. You probably will want to end up in a game like this down the road. So you have to be ready for that. That's not the option excuse for them. But I'm satisfied with Pollard, but I mean, to be fair, Pollard fumbled on the first play,
there's been a couple.
The first drive of the game.
Couldn't believe that.
And he fumbled in the season opener. Tyler Biadasz happened to recover it. I mean, stock down right now, Tony Pollard, but they don't have a lot of options. And plus, I mean, they literally got beat up, and that's what happens when teams play. Like, go look. Like at team reports the week after they play the Niners, there are way more names. Like they are a physical team that will put you through the gauntlet and put you through the ring. And sometimes it's just difficult to stand up to that. And I think that's why Tony Pollard fumbled.
Do you think Coach McCarthy understands that he causes more of a firestorm about his offense and what they're doing, and people saying he's not confident in Dak, when he says with the straight face, well, our identity, because of CeeDee Lamb's pouting, our identity is the defense. Like, to me, like when you had the number 1 offense 2 years in a row, Dak Prescott, Pro Bowler, whatever the case may be, putting up numbers, paid leader, everybody loves him, everybody follows him. And then you come out and you tell us, well, our identity is the defense. Well, then that leads me to want to ask you that question even more so about your people offense in the red zone and things like that. Like, how do you go from the number 1 offense to laying your identity with the same team essentially being your defense?
I mean, to your point as well, with you in charge of the offense. I do think, look, Mike McCarthy's been in some moments on some big stages, and this obviously isn't his first season with the Cowboys, but I do think that when he first arrived, there was a culture shock. I happened to be there after Randall Cobb's first game with the Cowboys, which is a week 1 Sunday night football game. And in this post-game locker room session, I said, look, this is wild. He was like, this is like, we barely had this much media here in playoff games. Like, this is a different world. And so I don't know that Mike McCarthy maybe has, and I'm not saying this should even be his concern, but every word you speak when you hold the post that you currently do is overanalyzed, is dissected,
and it's gospel.
Apart. And so that's just the nature of the beast. And I do think he handles that better than most people give him credit for. But yeah, I mean, every now and then, somebody takes a left step when they want to right. And so it is one thing, you're right, to say that the identity of your team is the defense. And even if you don't realize what you're saying, like, you're on some, I'm not a psychologist by any stretch of the imagination, although I've consulted you both in different obviously, but you create that idea in your own mind, right? Like, and you play into that, you know what I mean? Like, you got to believe that your offense can carry you and not that it's this, second fiddle to the great. And that's the other thing here. Look, I love Dan Quinn. I haven't seen a shred of Dan Quinn slander this week.
Great
Dude's
point,
got
RJ.
work for 42 points. I know
point,
some of that's inflated, but we're over here like Mike's, and it's true that Mike's got to work on stuff. But 2 of the last 3 games, the almighty Dan Quinn defense, who the head coach is willing to say is doing more work, who has more talent on his side of the ball, they're not up to snuff. And it's not cool to say Dan Quinn. When the Cowboys win, oh, this is Dan Quinn show, baby. Mike McCarthy's not doing anything, all right? But when the Cowboys lose, there's been more talk about the post-Malone Dallas Cowboys Canes than there has about Dan Quinn having any level of responsibility for what they're doing.
That is the most beautiful Canes. If you have not seen Post Malone's Dallas Cowboy Canes, speaking of the chicken strip spot, it is the best Canes. It's probably the best fast food restaurant I've ever seen, other than the ones in like Tokyo. Have you seen it, Rob?
Yeah, the silver and blue lighting and all that.
Awesome.
Is the cane sauce any different?
It looks like Culver's. No, but a lot of people said it looks like Culver's, and I can kind of see that. Yeah,
I can see that.
You talked about the defense, and it's certainly worthy of conversation as Leighton Vander Esch is going to be gone, and how they fill that will be interesting to watch. But before we go there, I want to talk about the offensive line. They finally got the dream team together. Everybody healthy, everybody playing, and granted, it was the 49ers and all that they bring, but it wasn't a success by any measure. Is it about continuity here, or maybe we've got our eyes on the wrong starters?
I don't know that I would make any kind of adjustments, obviously, but I mean, you're right. And I tweeted before the game, and some people thought that I was trying to, be prophetic in a positive way. I was really just kind of saying, I tweeted, we're about to learn who the Cowboys are. Like, this is fascinating. Like, we're finally going to get to see, their intended offensive line for the first time of the Tyler Smith era. Did not go well. No. And I think and the scary thing is, I know that we want to give San Francisco a lot of defensive credit, and we certainly should. But they are not, and I say this with all due respect to the proper owners of the Dallas Cowboys, they are not the defense that they've been of the last few years. Like, they're still very good, but relative to context, like, they are not the mighty machine that we have known them to be in recent memory. And so you caught the weakest version of them, and your full-out intended offensive line couldn't hang with them at all. I don't know that Aaron Steele contract is a mistake. But he's really kind of been the weak spot of the Cowboys offensive line. He's been the only one who's been there all season long. He allowed 8 pressures on Sunday night. The rest of the team combined allowed 7. And so, I mean, some of it is you just be better. Some of it is you're not going to go up against the Monstars every week. But that's, it's a problem that needs addressing too.
Can you see if this continues? And, man, we like us some Steele. He's from around here, but it looks like paycheck came and work went away. Let's be real here. This has been a terrible season for him. Can you see Tyron moving back over to right tackle?
Well, then where are you moving Tyron?
Well, I'm just
like you're
to the bench.
To the bench.
And the reality too is, Tyron didn't practice yesterday. Like, literally yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
And so, and that, like, I wouldn't panic about that yet.
Okay.
But, the reality is, like, this is such a weaving that you have to do with Tyron. Like, is he going to be there? Is he not going to be there? Is he ever going to practice a full week? And, like, again, some of that is like, there's no sense in switching over a Thursday practice report. But people, I think I speak for Cowboys fans in saying that they're kind of fed up with Tyron Smith. They acknowledge the greatness. They're thankful for it. This isn't about bitterness or anything like that, but this is a matter of, dude, it's really difficult to kind of count on anything on a weekly basis. And if you're out, then we have to keep playing this game of musical chairs. Like, you can't not, have him playing because he's Tyron Smith, but in some senses, his presence creates more problems, more hypothetical problems than it does solutions.
You know what, RJ, I'm with you, man. And I told Rob this all week, but before the game, everybody's doesn't have the ability to do what San Fran did to Dallas. He's got 12 games left. They don't lose 2 in a row. I think they go out and beat the Chargers I'm not saying that all is well, because I think everybody's looking down the end of the road, which like, okay, when we got to go through San Fran, we're going to lose. Like, I don't think you can worry about that. And I don't think the NFL mind works like that. And I think they go out and beat the Chargers, and, you know, they'll be okay going into the bye. 4-2 going into the bye. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to cry about that.
You're right, to be fair. And while I hope that it ends shortly, at least, you know, a lot of Cowboys fans have the Rangers to kind of lean on and hug a pillow at night with.
That could go south too.
But you spun really positively, and for what it's worth, I agree with you. And getting to 4, like if you had told anyone the Cowboys would be 4-2 at the bye week, they would have taken it and run with it, and it would be a nice reprieve. And I think so. Well, because Rob, after the bye,
going 6-0.
I thought 5-1, legit.
After the bye, before Thanksgiving, they get the Rams, who have been cute, but whatever. The Eagles, granted that's in Philadelphia, the Giants, and then the Panthers. So you're talking about they could, you know, take maybe 3 more of those. You're at Thanksgiving at 7-3, like that's positive. But
it's just the way it went down.
Before we go, to do this, though, this defense is going to have to stop giving up what's given up the last couple of weeks, minus Leighton Vander Esch. I know they went to the free agent thing and found a former Falcon that knew Dan Quinn's phone number, I guess. And that's the addition. How do you see this offense or this defense playing out, and who's going to fill the Vander Esch role?
It's funny. It was a road trip to face the Chargers 2 years ago when the Cowboys were down to Marcus Lawrence, and they had to commit Micah Parsons to rushing the passer, and that unlocked everything.
The rest is history.
They've become.
Great reference.
And so it's a road trip to the Chargers where he might have to move back, and he might have to play more off-ball linebacker out of necessity. Give the Cowboys some higher point of depth there. They have pass rushers, and you know, as great as Micah Parsons is at that, the reality is teams are figuring out how to neutralize him and how to take him out of the game when he's rushing the passer. So if you can get him in space, I mean, he's an all-world off-ball linebacker as well. And so that would be my guess. I mean, but you're right. It is funny how, again, the holy Dan Quinn, he knew Rashaan Evans. So like, this is gonna work out wonderfully. Everything is perfect. I did want to add though, if it does, I mean, this is a high-powered offense that they're obviously going up against, and the narrative is incredibly important this week, given who coordinates that offense in Kellen Moore. Rudy, you said Cowboys get the win, they move to 4-2 on the bye week. All is well. If they lose and Kellen Moore,
all hell breaks loose,
and they're 3-3 with 2 weeks to sit on it, I mean, that is going to be, and to be fair, by Monday night, the Astros will have a 2-0 lead in the ALCS.
To be fair.
So, I mean, like, Armageddon will be raining down.
And I bet the Mavericks lose Monday night to the Spurs, too. So it's all going south.
Great point.
I think they play the Rockets.
Oh, it's the Rockets.
But
so we'll take down the other.
The same thing. Hey, do you know how many teams they have to face coming off the bye? If you don't know off the top, tweet me.
Teams that are coming off the bye, how many teams do the Cowboys have to play after taking a week off?
The teams who are coming out,
like the Chargers. How many more times do we have to do this?
Because it's
I don't think any.
Okay, good.
But the NFL is interestingly kind of neutering the bye and the advantage that it would seemingly offer. I mean, in some senses, or Monday Night Football, I should say. Like, you know, the Cowboys get the benefit of this. I mean, they don't have to play a short week after playing on Monday Night Football the way other teams do.
Good point.
They go on their bye right after that. And you can never find a routine. I think 5 years ago, I wrote an article. Dallas played Tennessee on Monday Night Football coming off of their bye, and Tennessee was as well. So they had no bye advantage, and neither did the Titans, whatever. And you would think that would be equal, right? That every team would play somebody coming off their bye when they are. You would think that would be the way it was.
The fair thing, anyway.
Yeah, it's just, you know, sometimes you're on the right. And last year, the Cowboys played the Bears at home, and the Bears were coming off of a road Monday night game in New England. Why would you do that? Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, those things are inherently, they're inherently unfair. Everyone should have to pay the price at their particular turn, whether it's Monday night, Thursday night, whatever the case may be.
Put all your multi-shades of orange away and give me a proper prediction. Astros, Rangers, how many games, who wins?
I mean, you know, this is Cowboys-Niners in some way. Like, the Astros recently owned the Rangers. I'd say 4-1, 4-2. I mean, I think it's over in 5 or 6 games. Honestly, the Astros are a little bit different. I normally never really put stock into like, oh, we have experience, we have this in any kind of sport. But when you've done this 7 times in a row, I think you're a little bit less wide-eyed. And that's why I'm worried about the D-backs. I'm worried about my Twitter, to be honest with you two, because for the next week and a half, I have to deal with all my DFW followers getting pissed off. And then I might have to have my team face the Phillies in the World Series again and deal with toxic fan base that are Philly sports. I survived that last year, and it was wonderful, but it's a terrifying prospect here in 2020.
Philly looks like a team of destiny to me.
Shut the hell up, Rob.
I'm just talking homers leaving the park, much like RJ. Whenever he's there, we leave the park.
You, brother.
Hey, we're glad you're here, man. Take care. Have a fine, healthy weekend, and we will talk to you next Friday.
I hope you each eat something pumpkin-related over the weekend.
I will do my best to have a PSL within the next couple of hours.
Go Taylor Swift.
He is RJ Ochoa. Check his stuff on the X's and everywhere else you follow your Dallas Cowboys, because that's what he does, and he does very well.